Whoa! Pump the brakes there, guy! Welcome back, Jeep fam. We're going to be talking about brakes today. Let's get into it. Alright, guys. What we're going to be talking about today is brakes. My brake system on the Jeep is very, very particular because mainly what ended up happening is I decided that I was going to run 1-ton axle. And obviously with adding 1-ton axles, you add a lot of weight. And then adding the cage, you add a lot of weight. Adding the wheels and the tires, it's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight going down the road that you need to be able to stop. Even when you're just doing factory Jeep and you put bigger wheels and tires on it, that's still adding a pretty good amount of weight. And a lot of people in the Wranglers have noticed if you add a lot of weight just by doing bigger wheels and tires, you actually can feel a difference in your braking, and it'll wear through your pads faster and stuff like that. It's not the greatest brake system out there, but with that being said, we changed everything, and we will continue to change everything later on. The only factory thing on it right now from Jeep is surprisingly the master cylinder, because since I have a 6-speed manual, my master cylinder is shared with the clutch system as well. I started to build a brake system for it, and I was like, well, you know, let's just see if it'll work. Let's see if it'll work and see what happens. So basically we put the whole brake system together, put it on, and it worked. It works fine with a factory master cylinder and actually a factory brake pedal as well, and clutch pedal. But I am going to be switching it to a full manual system with aftermarket pedals that are a little bit longer, so I get a little bit more leverage push out of them and everything. But that'll be later on, and if the Jeep sells before I decide to do that, then the Jeep sells. What we're gonna end up doing is going over the brake system, not so much for the rear as we will be for the front. And we'll be going over a little bit of history of the company that I decided to pick so I could have their brakes on my Jeep. It's been a lot of research went into this more than probably most of anything because of the fact that it is my brake system and it is what is going to keep myself and my family safe in case of an accident where we have to stop in a very, very quick manner. I wanted that Jeep, even though it has all that weight coming down the road, I wanted that Jeep to stop on a dime, not stop like a semi and just keep on going, or a train or something. So I decided to go with, there's a few different companies out there. I looked into Bear, didn't really find much of anything from them to fit my axles that I was doing. And then I looked into a couple other companies and they didn't offer anything for the axles I was going with. I kind of got discouraged and I was just like, you know, I really don't want to spend so much money on making a fully custom brake system, which I basically did anyways. It wasn't as extensive as it was going to be. Basically, it's a 60-40 split. Most of your braking happens on the front and the rear makes up for the rest of it. So I figured I'll just put factory 1-ton brakes on the rear and see if it works. If not, then I will switch to doing the kit for the rear as well. That's why we're not really going to be talking about much stuff with the rear brake system, because it's just a factory 1-ton brake system that has their disc brakes. They have a parking brake on the inside of the disc brake, just like a normal 1-ton brake system that is on the rear axle is out of a 2006 2500 HD Chevrolet, or no, 3500 single axle. Basically, it's literally a just factory 1-ton brake system and the lines just hook up to it. With that being said, the front, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do these brakes for the front. Like, they offer a kit. Like, it's stupid expensive, but they offer a kit. So hey, let's do it, you know? I was like, they're beast of a caliper, they're beast of rotors, why not, right? And then I got the parts in, and don't get me wrong, they are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I then realized when I opened the box for the calipers, I went overboard, like way overboard. And I was just not expecting the calipers to be that big. And I was very, very surprised. And then I opened the box for the rotors and I was like, whoa, I definitely went overboard. And the company I'm talking about is Wilwood Brakes. Now, Wilwood has been around for a very, very long time, and I'm going to give you guys a little history behind Wilwood. I remember watching off-road racing, and I would see, the Wilwood cars coming around. They got big old Wilwood decal on the side, and I was like, what the heck is that about? This is when I was kidding. Looked it up, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna have one of those brake systems pretty soon. I'm gonna get one when I get older and start driving and stuff. I'm gonna have best of the best, And then when I went and did my college for automotive technology and high performance, I realized you don't need them. You really don't. And so I threw that mindset out and got them anyway. So basically, Wilwood Engineering has been around since 1977 by Bill Wood. They developed a substantial matrix of brake components and engineering techniques that allow us to quickly and reliably create brake systems for almost any application, which is insane because, as you guys know, I have a Jeep Wrangler, but I have a Ford front axle and a Chevy rear axle, and my brake system still work because of these guys. Their headquarters are in Camarillo, California, which is right here. Now, Wilwood is a large company, but their employees, they're not in the thousands or tens of thousands. It's literally Wilwood employs approximately 320 people. They're not even at 500. I don't know when this was updated or anything, but that's really not a lot of people when they do all of the stuff that they do, it's kind of crazy. And this is pretty awesome. We have on-shelf stock more than 300 different brake calipers, 200 rotor designs, 100 master cylinder designs, and a wide assortment of brackets, fittings, valves, and brake lines. Off-shelf brake calipers range in size from tiny calipers used on go-karts and light-duty industrial equipment to heavy-duty original equipment brakes for the U.S. military Humvee. So that is pretty awesome. And obviously they do stuff like for NASCAR. They do classics, street rods, hot rods, snowmobiles, off-road trucks, race cars, drift cars, dump trucks, all kinds of stuff. Which I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen a dump truck with Wilwood, but they got a picture of a beast of a dump truck on their website, so I'm just going by that picture. So what's pretty cool about Wilwood Brakes is you can actually go to their website, go to their drop-down menu, and click on brake kits, and then you can click on search by vehicle, year, make, and model. You can go on, put your year, make, and model in whatever option, and if they have a kit for your vehicle, it'll come right up and you can choose which one. You can choose between a bunch of different caliper colors, and they'll actually make you custom colors for an additional fee. What I chose for my front brake system is I'll go through here and I will do year, make, and model. I have a 2005 Ford F-250 Super Duty front axle. Now that is a 4-wheel drive axle, so I have to click on the options 4x2 or 4x4. So I click on 4x4, click search, and it'll come up and it'll bring up a front kit, rear kit, or just the brake pads. So I'm obviously looking for the front kit. So one thing comes up and it is the TX6R big brake truck front brake kit. Now that is the front kit that I run on the Wrangler. It is way overkill and I probably shouldn't have picked that, but that's what I did. Now with that being said, this is for a Ford front end, which as you guys can probably imagine, the Ford front ends don't match the Chevy rear end bolt patterns. So since my brake rotor is a 2-piece design where I have a hat and I have the actual face of the rotor where the caliper clamps onto, it bolts to the hat. So my theory was, I'll just order the kit and then order a new hat and put the hat on and it'll be good to go. Evidently, according to Wilwood, the diameters, I guess, were different and it wouldn't work, is what I was being told on the phone. Didn't make sense to me because I was looking at the measurements and they were the exact same. So I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Now, the front hub assembly, I went with a company out of South Carolina, I believe, and I will get into that when we get to that episode of this series. And they basically take a hub, rebore it, put some new studs in it, and that's how you get your Chevrolet bolt pattern with utilizing a Ford hub assembly, basically. What we did with the hat is, since we took the hat, we looked at it, we laid out measurements, and we're like, oh, that's plenty of room to just re-drill the hat. So that's what we ended up doing. We put it on like a CNC mill and drilled all brand new holes, perfect, and put the caliper and everything on, and then it worked great. We connected the rotor, obviously it worked fine, put that on, put the caliper bracket, and then put the caliper on top of it, and it worked perfect. So that's how I adapted this to the Jeep Wrangler. And this is a little bit of an issue because not drilling the holes or anything, but the caliper themselves. These calipers are absolutely massive. Now, this kit was designed, as I talked with Wilwood like every day for like 2 weeks when we were actually installing these brakes and trying to figure out if I needed to do a different master cylinder or if I didn't need to. And honestly, I was kind of put back by some of their people where they didn't really know much about their brake system. It seemed like they were just sales guys and not much else. I did get one guy in the tech department that really knew what he was talking about, and he was great. And I feel bad that I don't remember his name, but I'm horrible with names as it is. I really hope he is still working there because he was top of the line when it comes to knowing his stuff. Their brake kits like this one is designed to work with a factory master cylinder of the vehicle that they're going on. Obviously, the bore size of an F250 Super Duty master cylinder is larger than the bore size of the factory master cylinder on the Jeep Wrangler. So I was kind of concerned about that, but the way I was thinking about it is, okay, with this bore size, I'll basically end up with approximation of this much pressure at the caliper, and that is enough to actuate this massive caliper, which is this right here. This is a TX6R 6-piston caliper. This thing is absolutely massive, but it is a beast. This thing will stop on a dime, and it locks up the 40s like it's factory tires. It is absolutely insane, but it is very difficult to get a aftermarket brake system on your Wrangler and not have to change the master cylinder, the brake pedal itself, and basically everything. Well, I changed everything except for the brake pedal and the master cylinder, and I got very lucky with that. Now, you can actually go to a bigger master cylinder, which is I think it's the J8 master cylinder. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. It's basically just a bigger master cylinder, and they allow brakes to not be as squishy, I guess, is what people say about them. Well, doing all of my research into brake systems and everything when I was designing this whole thing is you might have a bigger bore in your master cylinder, which is a bigger piston, and you'll have more fluid, and you might be able to move that fluid around, but if you don't have the pressure at the caliper to actually actuate all of those pistons, it's not going to matter about your master cylinder. And with the size difference, I actually made up for that, and it actually works great. Let's get into a little bit of specs of what I actually got. Now, the spindle type, obviously for a Ford F250 Super Duty, is a factory disc spindle. It's radial mount type. The caliper is a 6-piston TX6R caliper. The rotor diameter is 16 inches, and the minimum wheel diameter requirement, and this is why I had to run a 20-inch wheel, the minimum wheel diameter required is 20 inches. And they give you a little notification here that says this brake kit may fit 20-inch wheels. Please refer to the wheel clearance diagram to check to see if it will fit your specific wheel. And then it has a clickable link that you can click on it, and it brings up the wheel diagram, which I will put in with this. So this is the wheel diagram that they're talking about that's on their website. And I looked at that and I was like, okay, I can kind of think and decide whether if it's gonna fit or not. So when I got to the point where I couldn't find anything to fit, that's when I called TRB Locks. I called Wilwood. They sent me over the full schematics of everything, and then I sent it off to TRB Locks, and they made me a killer set of wheels that you've seen in episode 1. Now, the calipers for the brake system that I got, because this is a kit made for the 2005 Ford F-250 Super Duty. It is a Dana 60 front end, and what they gave me is a piston count of 6 pistons. The piston bore in number 1 is 2 inches. The piston bore in number 2 is 1.88 inches, and the piston bore in number 3 is 1.88 inches. Now that is, piston bore number 1 is actually 2 pistons. Piston bore number 2 is 2 pistons. Piston number 3 is 3 pistons as well. Now the piston area in inches squared is 8.70. Now this might not mean a lot to a lot of you people that are watching this, but unfortunately it meant a lot to me because I had to use all of those measurements and a lot more to make sure that my brake system and my master cylinder was actually going to be able to handle that fluid and be able to actually actuate those pistons back and forth, which the pistons push on your brake pads, which push on the rotor, which actually makes you stop. The piston types are stainless, it's a radial mount. The brake pad area is 12.69 inches squared. And then the brake pad volume in inches cubed is 6.81. There's a lot of area that needs to be moved to actually actuate these pistons alone. And the pistons that I got black calipers. They're not pistons. I got black calipers, and I wanted the red calipers, but unfortunately because I like, obviously Wilwood is known for their red calipers and their silver writing. Unfortunately, when I called, those were not in stock. They wouldn't be in stock for like 4 months. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks. He goes, well, we have the black calipers in stock. I'm like, ship them out, bud. Those arrived and I'm happy with them. It's not that big of a deal. I just, wanted, as you roll down the road, someone looks into that wheel and they see that red caliper, that the red calipers, takes up a massive amount of the area inside your wheel, which I'll show you guys some photos at the end and during the build process. And I was kind of blown away by how big all these parts were. Now the rotor type is a GT60 curved vane, and the style is a GT slotted. I got a slotted one. I wanted the slotted and cross-drilled, but they didn't have the cross-drilled ones in stock, so I just went with the slotted. It's not that big of a deal. It just allows for more escape of brake gases and cooling effect and everything. The coating on the rotors is a black electro coat. The material is a spec 37 iron. The outside diameter is 16 inches, 1.5 inches wide. The vane count is 60. It's not is dynamically balanced, so it is balanced, so it's not gonna give you any wobble or anything like that. Now the rotor hat, because that is a 2-piece rotor, this is a 2-piece rotor design, so I had to get an actual rotor hat to go with it. I'm not gonna get into a lot of the stuff with the rotor hat because we actually had to change that. Basically, it's just a truck hat. It's a standard. It's made out of aluminum, has a black E coat on it. The hat offset dimension is 1.92. The bolt circle is 8 by 6.692, which is the Ford bolt pattern, which we actually had to change. So that didn't really matter. Stud diameter was 0.640, and that is obviously for the Ford front end, which we changed. So the rest of the stuff, it really doesn't pertain to everything we got. When it comes to actually installing this brake system, we had to change quite a bit in the Jeep. We had to change all of the lines, and on top of that, because we did the suspension that we did, and the suspension is actually going to be the very next episode, so I will actually get into that when we get into this, because of the brake lines and how they had to be ran. Instead of just running them right down to the brakes with just a short flex line, I have a lot of flex, so I didn't want to run at 16 or 17, 18 inch soft brake line that when my suspension drooped all the way down, I'd have enough travel. So what we ended up doing is we actually ran it down to the center of the frame, and from the 2 frame rails, we ran it to the center of the 2 frame rails, and then we ran a flex line. Everything up top is all hard lines, and then we ran a flex line that came down to the top of the axle. And since I have a trussed axle, I ran that down to the top of the truss onto a bracket, and then I ran the line actually back to on the top link that goes to the top of the axle because it's a 3-link suspension, and then I ran it over, and when it runs up that line, that's a hard line and it's placed on the top. And then I ran it over to the lower link, and that was with a flex line. So as the suspension moves and all these links are moving, it has that flexible joint right there with that flex line. And then it runs a hard line line coming down the lower links on both sides of the arms, and then it goes into a flex line that goes actually directly to the caliper itself. So I can literally have full suspension travel, and I only have a couple areas where it has flex lines, and everything else is hard line. Just same thing going all the way back to the back axle as well. We ran hard lines that go all the way back. In every joint area where the suspension joints is a short flex line, and all of the lines are the same length. So the lines for the front to go to either side are the same length. The all the flex lines are braided flex line, and they're all the same length. So if the driver's side goes out, and I have say a passenger side one, and it was two different lengths, and the driver's side one was longer than the passenger side, I couldn't take that passenger side line and use it for the driver's side. So every flex line is the same length. So I carry two spare flex lines with me, so just in case it goes out, I have, no matter where that flex line goes out, I can replace it right there on the spot, and I carry two of them with me. And then the hard lines are just normal hard brake line that you would run on any other vehicle out there. So I can actually go to a normal parts store, and if those lines go out, which I carry with me as well, some hard line, and I can replace a hard line as well. So, and I do carry a flaring tool with me, so I can flare everything for the connections so it actually doesn't leak and everything as well. So if we're on the trail and I bust a hard line, which would be very difficult because all the hard lines are on top of the axle and on top of the suspension links, so they're all up out of the way, but crazy things happen. So if it does actually happen, I can replace that on the trail super quick and not have to worry about anything, which I obviously also carry brake fluid with me as well, just for that specific situation, which it hasn't happened yet, so hopefully it doesn't. These guys offer literally, getting back to Wilwood, these guys offer literally absolutely, they offer brake fluid of their own. They offer hats, pedals, the master cylinders, the brake pads, flex lines, drop and pressure valves so you can adjust your pressures and stuff. They obviously offer their hardware. They do the parking brake cables, which I actually have to order because mine for some reason didn't show up still, because who knows. So I will be getting in contact with them and getting a parking brake cable made for the Wrangler as well. And then obviously they offer the calipers, they offer kits, they offer hubs, they do the full rotors, the cutting brakes. So like if you're going to drift and stuff, you can lock up your brakes. It's pretty sweet. And then obviously they offer pro spindles, and that stuff is pretty sweet. So if you guys are interested in getting your brakes and stuff, you can just head over to their website. It's wilwood.com, and you can check out everything for your application, whether it be a Jeep Wrangler, Ford F-250. They also offer the big brake kit for the rear axle as well for my build, and that's what I was going to go with. But these brake kits are not cheap, and if I could get away with just running a factory brake system in the rear, that's what I was going to do, and it's working pretty good as of right now. If the Jeep doesn't sell by the time I get around to it, I'll probably opt to put the rear brake kit on as well, but as of right now, it's working fine, so why mess with it? If you guys are interested in seeing if they actually have something for your vehicle or whatever you're into, maybe you got a airplane or something, you can go on and you can go to applications, their drop down menu. You can go to aerospace, we'll go to there, aerospace plus ground support vehicles and equipment, and you can actually go on and you can check out all the stuff that they do, and it's pretty wild. I did not know they did all of this stuff, so that's pretty cool, and I'm pretty proud to say that I picked them as my brake system for the Wrangler, because if they're doing all of this stuff, they definitely got it done, and they got it done right, and it's a brake system that you can definitely trust, and it's a brake system that I definitely trust with my life and my family's life as well, because we do, even though the Jeep's not small by any means, we have people that pull out in front of us all the time. We can be cruising 20 miles an hour or be cruising 75 miles an hour down the road, and people will still pull out in front of us. I want the added security knowing that my brake system is going to make sure that I can stop in time to avoid an accident if I possibly can. So with that being said, guys, here are some photos of the brake system that I got for the Wrangler. I'll probably show some of the pictures for the rear brakes as well, so you can, I guess, look what a factory 1-ton brake system looks like. But most of it will be focused on the front, because I really didn't get that many pictures of the rear when we were making it anyways, because it's just a factory system and it didn't look pretty, so I didn't take many pictures of it. Well, guys, that's the end of the video. We're going to wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoyed the little slideshow, the little music in the background. Do check all them photos out and stuff. And if you guys are like me and you guys want some really, really good quality brakes, definitely head over to willwood.com and see what they can do for you. With that being said, guys, you guys have a good day, and thanks for watching.